My husband texted while I was at work. I'm moving out again. This time it's permanent. Don't try to stop me. I replied, okay. He expected me to beg. When he came home that evening and found I'd already packed all his belongings and changed the locks, his permanent decision got very temporary. Original post. I, Christina, 36, female, have been married to my husband for 7 years. In that time, he has threatened to leave me exactly 11 times. I know because I started keeping track after the third time. The pattern was always the same. We'd have a disagreement about something, sometimes big, sometimes pathetically small, and he'd escalate it into a full-blown crisis. Then came the dramatic announcement. I'm done. I'm leaving you. He'd pack a bag, storm out, stay with his sister or his mom for anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks, and then come back once I'd apologized enough, promised to do better, and generally made myself small enough to fit back into his good graces. It was exhausting, but I loved him, or at least I loved who I thought he was when we first got married, so I kept trying. Last Tuesday, I was in a meeting at work when my phone buzzed. I glanced down and saw the text that finally broke something in me. I'm moving out again. This time, it's permanent. Don't try to stop me. I've already talked to a lawyer. That was it. No explanation, no context. We hadn't even been fighting. The night before, we'd watched a movie together, and he'd fallen asleep with his head against my shoulder. I excused myself from the meeting and went to the bathroom. I stood there staring at my phone for probably 3 minutes, and something just shifted. Every time before, my immediate reaction had been panic. Racing heart, sweaty palms, desperate need to fix whatever was wrong. But this time, nothing. I felt absolutely nothing except tired. I typed back one word. Okay. Then I went back to my meeting. He didn't respond for almost an hour. When he did, it was just, that's it? That's all you have to say? I didn't reply. During my lunch break, I called a locksmith and explained that I needed all the locks changed on my house that afternoon. He said he could be there by 4 p.m. I left work at 3:30. I told my boss I had a family emergency. Here's what people need to understand. The house is mine. I bought it 3 years before we got married. I paid off the mortgage 2 years ago using an inheritance from my grandmother. My husband's name was never on the deed. He'd asked about adding his name twice, and I'd always said we'd talk about it later. Call it intuition. By the time I got home, I was operating on pure autopilot. I grabbed boxes from the garage and started packing his clothes, his books, his collection of those overpriced sneakers. He loved his grooming products. I was methodical about it. Nothing thrown, nothing damaged, just organized. The locksmith showed up at 4:15. Nice guy. Didn't ask questions. He had all the locks changed by 5:30. I paid him $275 in cash, and he gave me 4 new keys. I stacked all his boxes neatly in the garage and sent him one more text. Your belongings are in the garage. You can pick them up any time before Sunday. Then I ordered a pizza and watched basketball. He showed up at 8:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I was watching the clock, wondering how long it would take him to realize I wasn't playing the usual game. The doorbell rang, then pounding, then more pounding. Open this door right now. I muted the TV but didn't get up. I know you're in there. Your car is in the driveway. Open the door. I walked over and spoke through the door. Your stuff is in the garage. Code is 7734. Silence, then. What do you mean my stuff is in the garage? Let me in. You said you were moving out permanently. I helped you move out. Your stuff is in boxes in the garage. I didn't mean you can't just, this is my home. Actually, it's my home. Your name isn't on anything. You said you wanted to leave, so I'm respecting your decision. The screaming that followed was impressive. I learned some new combinations of words. His sister showed up about 20 minutes later, and the two of them stood on my porch yelling while I finished my pizza. Eventually, I heard the garage door open. They spent about an hour loading boxes into his sister's SUV. The whole time, my phone was blowing up with texts I didn't read. When they finally left, I changed the garage code too. Update 1, 3 days later. This has gotten messier than I expected, but also more clarifying. The morning after the lock change, my mother-in-law showed up at 7 a.m. I was getting ready for work when I heard pounding on the door. I opened it to find her standing there with her arms crossed and murder in her eyes. You need to let my son come home right now. Good morning to you too. Don't you get cute with me. He made a mistake. He didn't mean what he said. You know how he gets. I don't know how he gets. That's actually the problem. Marriage is about forgiveness, about working through things. Ma'am, with respect, your son has left me permanently 11 times in 7 years. I've forgiven him 11 times. I've apologized for things I didn't do 11 times. I've begged him to come back 11 times. This time, he got what he asked for. Her face went through about 6 different expressions. You can't just kick him out. He has rights. He told me he was leaving. He said he'd already talked to a lawyer. I took him at his word. If he wants to pursue this legally, he's welcome to. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but I don't think so. She left, but not before telling me I was just like my mother, which was wild because she's never met my mother. She died when I was 13. That afternoon, I got a voicemail from my husband's best friend. The message was long and rambling, but the highlights were that I was being emotionally abusive by taking his words literally when I knew what he really meant, and that I was punishing him for having emotions. I saved that voicemail. It felt like it might be useful later. My husband tried a different approach that evening. He showed up alone, no backup, looking like he'd been crying. Part of me wanted to feel bad, but I kept remembering all the other times, all the apologies I'd made for his behavior, all the times I'd twisted myself into knots trying to be good enough for someone who would never think I was. Can we please just talk? He said through the door. We can talk. You can talk from there. I can hear you fine. This is ridiculous. I'm your husband. You said you were leaving permanently. You said you'd already talked to a lawyer. Were you lying about the lawyer? Silence. Were you lying about leaving permanently? More silence. Then what were you upset about? We weren't fighting. We watched a movie the night before. You fell asleep on my shoulder. I needed space. I needed to know you still cared. There it was. The admission I'd suspected but never heard out loud. This wasn't about problems in our marriage. This wasn't about needing time apart. This was a test. Every single time had been a test. So you threatened to leave me to see if I'd chase you? You're making it sound. That's exactly what you just described. I love you. I just need to know you love me too. I showed you I loved you every day for 7 years. That wasn't enough. You needed drama. You needed me panicking and begging. And when I finally gave you what you actually asked for, suddenly that's wrong too. He started crying again. So what? We're just done? 7 years means nothing? 7 years means a lot. It means I spent 7 years with someone who would rather play games than have a real partnership. I'm done playing. He stood there for another few minutes, crying, but I didn't open the door. Eventually, he left. That night, I finally read through his texts from the past few days. There were 63 of them. The progression was something. You're seriously not going to call me? This is so immature. Fine, be that way. I can't believe you actually changed the locks. You're going to feel so stupid when you realize what you've done. I'm coming home tomorrow, and you better have fixed this. Why won't you answer me? I'm sorry. Okay, is that what you want? Please just call me. I miss you. I hate you. I love you. Please don't do this. And so on. The emotional whiplash was exhausting just reading it. I consulted with a divorce attorney the next day. He told me some things I didn't want to hear. Even though the house was mine before marriage, in our state, my husband might be entitled to a portion of its appreciated value during our marriage. Also, depending on various factors, I might owe him spousal support. How much are we talking? I asked. He named some numbers. I felt sick, but I also knew that staying married just to avoid those numbers would be worse. Let's start the process, I told him. Update 2. 2 weeks later, my husband got served with divorce papers at his sister's apartment. According to my lawyer, he apparently screamed so loud the neighbors called the cops, thinking someone was being attacked. His response was to hire his own attorney, a woman who apparently specializes in aggressive advocacy for men in unfair divorce situations. His family helped him pay the retainer. From what I heard through mutual friends, they were treating this like I was some kind of monster who'd thrown their precious boy out on the street. The narrative they were spinning to anyone who'd listen was that I had suddenly, and without warning, evicted my husband from his home, leaving him homeless and traumatized. They conveniently left out the part where he'd announced he was leaving permanently and had already consulted a lawyer. I stopped defending myself to mutual friends. The ones who knew me well enough knew the truth. The ones who didn't weren't worth the energy. Then came the deposition. My lawyer had advised me to document everything, so I'd been saving every text, every voicemail, every interaction. When my husband's attorney started trying to paint me as a controlling abuser, my lawyer dropped the receipts. All 11 "I'm leaving you" incidents, documented through texts and emails. His admission that he'd been testing me, the voicemail from his friend describing how I was punishing him for having emotions, and the crown jewel, a group chat screenshot someone had forwarded me, where my husband told his friends that his strategy was to make her sweat before graciously allowing her to win him back. His attorney's face when she reviewed those materials was beautiful. My husband's face when he realized I had that group chat screenshot was even better. "Where did you get that?" he demanded. "One of your friends felt I deserved to know the truth." Who? Who betrayed me? The irony of him using the word betrayed was not lost on me. The mediation that followed was brutal. His attorney pushed hard for spousal support, claiming he'd sacrificed career opportunities to support our marriage, which was news to me, since he'd been employed continuously at the same company the entire time we were together and had actually been promoted twice. My attorney pushed back hard, pointed out that I'd paid for the house before marriage, pointed out that he'd contributed nothing to the mortgage, which was already paid off, pointed out that our incomes were actually comparable, pointed out that I had documented evidence of emotional manipulation spanning years. The mediator looked exhausted. In the end, the settlement was this. He got nothing from the house. I had to pay him $300 a month in spousal support for exactly 12 months, basically a token amount that his attorney could claim as a win while actually being far less than he'd demanded. He kept his car, his retirement accounts, and all his personal belongings. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and my sanity. He was furious. Apparently, he'd expected to walk away with at least half the house's value. His attorney had apparently made some promises she couldn't keep. But the best part, the part that made every frustrating moment worth it, came during the final meeting. We were signing papers, and he looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not angry, not sad, just confused. "I really thought you'd come around," he said quietly. "Every other time you came around." "Every other time I thought I was fighting for something real," I said. "This time I realized I was just being used." "I wasn't using you. I loved you. I still love you." "Maybe, but you love the game more. You love knowing you could make me panic. You love the power of threatening to leave and watching me fall apart." "That's not love. That's control." He didn't have a response to that. His mother was waiting outside the attorney's office. When we walked out, she immediately started in on me. "I hope you're proud of yourself. You've destroyed my son." "Ma'am, your son told me he was leaving permanently. I took him at his word." "If he didn't mean it, maybe he shouldn't have said it. You know how he gets. You should have known he didn't mean it." "That's the problem. I do know how he gets. And I finally decided I deserve better than someone who gets like that." She sputtered. His sister, who'd been standing nearby, actually looked almost ashamed, like maybe for the first time she was seeing the situation clearly. "Let's go," my husband said, pulling his mother away. As I walked to my car, I heard her say, "Don't worry, sweetheart. You'll find someone better, someone who deserves you." I almost laughed. Almost. Final update. 6 weeks after the divorce was finalized, life has been quiet. Good quiet, not lonely quiet. I've been reconnecting with friends I drifted away from during my marriage. Turns out a lot of them had seen what was happening, but hadn't known how to say anything. One friend told me she'd tried to bring it up once, and I'd gotten defensive, so she backed off. I apologized for that. She said she was just glad I finally woke up. My therapist, yes, I started seeing a therapist, sue me, has been helping me understand why I stayed so long. Apparently, there's a term for what my husband was doing. It's called intermittent reinforcement. The unpredictability of his affection, the constant cycling between love and rejection, actually creates a trauma bond. You get addicted to the moments when things are good because the bad moments are so painful. It explained why I kept going back, why 11 times of the same pattern didn't teach me anything. It took that 12th time, that moment of absolute exhaustion, to finally break the cycle. I heard through the grapevine that my ex has been telling everyone he dodged a bullet, that I was secretly controlling the whole time, and that he's so much happier now. His social media is full of posts about healing and finding himself and knowing his worth. Cool, whatever helps him sleep at night. What I know is this. The last 2 months have been the most peaceful of my adult life. No walking on eggshells, no wondering what mood he'd be in when I got home, no bracing for the next "I'm leaving" announcement, no apologizing for things I didn't do. Just peace. The house feels different now. I've rearranged some furniture, painted the bedroom a color I actually like, turned a spare room into a home office. Small changes, but they matter. Last week, I ran into one of our mutual friends at the grocery store. She looked uncomfortable, like she wasn't sure how to act around me. Hey, I said, how have you been? Good, good. Look, I am sorry about everything. I didn't really know the whole story. Not many people did. He told us you were... Well, it doesn't matter what he told us. I saw those screenshots. I can't believe he talked about you like that in our group chat. Yeah, I said, that was a fun discovery. For what it's worth, I don't think he really understood what he had. He just always needed more. Nothing was ever enough for him. I know, I said. That's why I had to stop trying. She nodded. You look good. Happy? I am, I said. For the first time in years, I actually am. We chatted for a few more minutes, then went our separate ways. It was oddly healing. The spousal support payments started last month. $300 a month for 12 months. I set up an automatic transfer so I don't have to think about it. It's cheaper than what I was paying for his little treats and impulse buys. At least this comes with an end date. My lawyer told me that his attorney tried to appeal the settlement, claiming I'd hidden assets and that he deserved more. The judge reviewed the case and basically laughed them out of the room. Apparently, claiming someone hid assets requires evidence that assets were actually hidden. Since I disclosed everything from the start, that argument went nowhere. He's still living with his sister, from what I hear. The sister whose apartment smells like cats, according to a text I wasn't supposed to see. I'm sure that's going great. His mother tried to friend me on social media last week. I didn't accept. Some bridges are better left burned. Here's the thing people keep asking me. Do I regret any of it? Not the divorce. Clearly, I needed to do that. But the way I handled it, the immediate lock change, the boxing up his stuff, the refusal to discuss anything in person? Honestly, no, I don't. For 7 years, I played his game. I followed his rules. I apologized when I hadn't done anything wrong. I begged him to come back when he was the one who left. I made myself smaller and smaller to fit into whatever version of a wife he wanted that week. That one text, okay, was the first time I'd ever just accepted what he said at face value. The first time I treated him like an adult whose words had meaning and consequences. The first time I didn't chase. And apparently that was unforgivable, because in his world, my job was to chase forever, to never give up, to prove my love by desperately trying to keep someone who kept threatening to leave. No thanks, I'm good. The house is quiet tonight. I'm sitting on my couch watching basketball, drinking a beer. My phone is silent. No one is testing me. No one is waiting to see if I'll react the right way. I think about what he said during the divorce about how he thought I'd come around, how I always had before. And he's right, I always did, because I thought that's what love meant. I thought the measure of commitment was how much you'd endure. Now I know better. Love isn't about endurance. It's not about proving you'll suffer indefinitely for someone. It's supposed to be about two people making each other's lives better, not constantly testing each other's breaking points. He texted me last week. I don't know how he got my new number. I changed it after the divorce. The message was short. I made a mistake. I know that now. Can we talk? I blocked the number without responding. Some doors, once closed, need to stay that way. I'm not angry anymore. That's the weird part. The rage I felt in those first few days, the bitter satisfaction of finally fighting back, that's faded. What's left is just clarity. I see now what I couldn't see before, and I'm grateful, in a strange way, that he pushed me so hard. I finally pushed back. Because this version of my life, the quiet one, the peaceful one, it's pretty good. And that's enough.